The SnyderVerse fandom is just too far gone at this point. Look, I get that there are many of you out there who are passionate, diehard, and want to see the Snyderverse restored and are respectful, and they don't add to the toxicity and the hatred and the anger that is just filling the entirety of this fandom. Today, I realized something. It doesn't matter what you do, what you say. There isn't anybody that's part of that movement that can take lead and truly show what the movement is to be about. Back with Release the Snyder Cut, there were so many people who understood that the goal was not simply to release the Snyder Cut, but it was to highlight the need for artistic integrity, the need for people to respect the artists. But now, with the Restore the Snyderverse movement, that's all been forgotten. It's all been forgotten. Over on Facebook, actually this weekend, I wrote a post about how I believe that by boycotting The Flash, by spewing hatred and ignorance towards those who are the artists that created it, to bash a studio that is behind it, is only going to lead to the destruction, or not even the destruction, because it's already been destroyed. But what it's going to do is it's going to lead to there being no possibility for the Snyderverse ever to be restored. That isn't to say that I'm saying, hey, go watch that movie if you don't want to see it. By no means do I mean that. But what I'm saying is be respectful. Andy Muschietti, Ezra Miller, and all of those people that are part of that film worked hard. And we, as a fandom, at one point in time, believed in artistic integrity by allowing artists to showcase what they've created, to sit there and to call for boycotts, because that is happening, to try and bash a movie, calling it The Flush, and making it out to be something worse than it actually is no better than what Jeff Johns, Josh Whedon, Kevin Tushihara, and all those people in 2016, 2017 did to Zack Snyder. I know you don't want to hear that, but it's true. I mean, you take a look at this. I post something on a Restore the Snyderverse group, and I try to reply to a remark that somebody's just kind of pushing back. And as you see here, one of the admins of the group says, your comments are being automatically declined for a reason. So you're saying that as a fandom, we can't have a discussion to better understand where the movement should be headed, as opposed to sitting there being complete assholes and pushing a studio to not even respect the fandom. Sure, we have a big fandom. The fandom is pretty large, not as large as some of you say it is, but that doesn't matter if you're complete assholes. The studio will never respect you. The studio will never give you what you want. You never give a child who is throwing a tantrum what they want. I put one of my, my post on here, or a comment on here. And as you can see, this admin, Danny Hart on Restore the Snyderverse, he goes, like, you're going to get dragged for this post. And at this point, that's completely on you. Josh Whedon was asked by the studio to come in and support the creative decisions instead of supporting what Snyder had created or originally intended for the DCEU. Have a good long think and see if you can figure out which side of the DC fandom is doing that today. You are. You are. You see, what I am trying to explain to people is we as a fandom are to be better. We are to be better than what has come before. You want to show and be the example, and you want to sit there and say, look, we respect creative integrity. We respect Andy Muschietti, Ezra Miller. That's fine. We respect James Gunn. We're going to allow them to do what they want to do. That doesn't mean you have to go and see it. But what that means is you have to stop being assholes towards them. But don't go see it. That's fine. Go right ahead. You don't have to go and see it. But here's the thing. The way you're acting like little children, you have lost respect of other fans and the studio and James Gunn. Like, honestly, take a hard look at yourself. Do you really think that your bitching and whining and crying is going to get you the Snyderverse to be restored? Fifthly, the Flash has nothing to do with the Snyderverse. I'm just convinced you've watched you have watched the Quest for Peace a dozen times to support Richard Donner. Nowhere did I say in my post that the Flash is fully connected to the Snyderverse. However, it is connected to the universe in which Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman launched. And if you don't support those characters, why is the studio going to want to sit there and say, well, let's revisit these characters in another form so we can appease fans over here. They're not going to do that. The Ezra Miller Flash is no different than the Flash and Ezra Miller Flash that was in Batman vs. Superman or Justice League or Zack Snyder's Justice League. Yet you sit there and complain and say, oh, it's completely different. My comments are declined because, God forbid, a fan of the SnyderVerse actually talks sense. And that is a huge point to point out here, because I truly do hope that there are more fans out there who are like me, who understand and won't resort to the same tactics that Warner Brothers resorted to in 2017 to have Snyder removed. He goes, your comments are being declined because you have a habit of constantly going against the entire point of the group, which is exactly why I have the admin assist tools set the way I do. Again, it's about having a conversation on how to make the fandom better. It's not about going against the idea of restoring the SnyderVerse. I'm all for it. I'm more on the animate the SnyderVerse side, but that's still part of restore the SnyderVerse. It's still restoring it, it's still continuing it. But I think there's a better way to do it than being complete douchebags and assholes towards the studio, towards fans who want to see the Flash, towards fans who are excited about what James Gunn is doing. And that is what is ridiculous. That is why this fandom has 110%. They have failed. They are not the fandom that they once were. They are too far gone. Again, I know there's some of you out there who are not in this mindset, who are not part of the toxicity and being an asshole towards everyone. But here's the thing. If you're part of that fandom, you're going to get lumped into that mess. And it's just unfortunate. It is truly unfortunate, because this fandom was amazing between 2017 and 2021. It was a fantastic fandom that stood for integrity, that stood for making sure that a studio was held accountable. That studio's no longer there. Yeah, the studio's there, but those who are in charge are no longer there. To call out Gunn and Zaslav and Safran and whomever you want to call out at this point is ridiculous, because they are not the ones who destroyed and ended the SnyderVerse in 2017. But you're not showing them respect. You're not allowing them to see how great of a fan base we actually can be. We should be an asset to them. They should see us as an asset to them. And then, and only then, will we get even an inkling and probably the restoration of the SnyderVerse. But you all refuse to go that route. You want to be assholes, you want to be douchebags. That's all on you. But don't be mistaken. In 5-10 years, when there's no SnyderVerse restored, you only have yourself to blame at that point. And I truly believe that. Let me know what you think about all this. I'm completely over it. I'm completely over the madness surrounding the SnyderVerse fandom. There's so many of you out there that I know are not complete dickheads, but unfortunately, when you have a minority fan base, which is loud, but then you have a minority within that minority that is even louder, it's not going to end well for you. Let me know what you think in the comments below. With that said, I'll talk at all of you later.